A fight for the mountain. The tires of my old pickup crunched against the frost-dusted gravel as I pulled up to my family's cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. The crisp November air of 2027 carrying the scent of pine and a promise of snow. It was late afternoon, the kind of golden hour that paints the hills in hues of amber, and I was bone-tired from months grinding away in Raleigh's concrete jungle. This cabin, built by my grandfather in 1958, was my sanctuary, inherited 3 years ago after he passed. I'd been dreaming of this moment, cutting the engine, stepping onto land that had held my family's stories for decades. The porch creaked under my boots, its weathered boards a testament to summers spent fishing with Granddad, winters huddled by the wood stove. But before I could even unlock the door, I saw them. 2 figures crossing the meadow like they'd been lying in wait, their silhouettes sharp against the fading light. Margaret Voss led the charge, her designer parka spotless, her clipboard gripped like a battle standard. Trailing her was Leonard Hayes, clutching a folder, his glasses fogging in the cold as he fidgeted nervously. I barely had my keys out when Margaret's voice sliced through the quiet like a knife. "Mr. Carter, we need to address your violation of the Pine Hollow Homeowners Association's aesthetic covenant. Your cabin is a blight on our community's standards." Her words hit like a slap, accusing my grandfather's hand-hewn legacy of being an eyesore. I forced a smile, fishing for calm. "Margaret, this cabin's been here since before your HOA existed. I'm on my own land. Can we talk later? I just drove 6 hours." She smirked, a sound that made the sparrows scatter. "Your land stops at the boundary, Mr. Carter. Our bylaws prohibit structures visible from the access road without approved screening. This," she gestured at my home, "is unacceptable." I turned the key, the lock clicking with the same satisfying thud it had for 60 years. "Pretty sure my deed predates your rules by a few decades," I said, keeping my voice even, though my fists clenched at the audacity. Leonard cleared his throat, his voice shaky. "It's not that simple, Mr. Carter. There are legal complexities we need to discuss to avoid escalation." His trembling hands suggested he wasn't sure if he was delivering a warning or a bluff. Before I could respond, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up, kicking up dust that glowed in the dusk. Deputy Sarah Klein stepped out, adjusting her hat, looking more exasperated than official. I remembered her dad used to hunt with Granddad. "Got a call about a property dispute," she said, her tone neutral. "Let's keep this civil." Margaret practically beamed, pointing at my cabin like it was Exhibit A in a trial. "Deputy, this structure violates our scenic standards. We need an official report for enforcement." Sarah glanced at my cabin, then at her phone, pulling up the county assessor's records. "Records show Mr. Carter owns this parcel, clear title since his grandfather's estate settled in 24. She held up the screen, my name in bold. Margaret's face tightened, but Leonard waved his papers. "The scenic easement overrides grandfathered structures per statute 12-3-7. We can fine you $600 daily until compliance." Sarah just shrugged and drove off, leaving Margaret and Leonard fuming in the cold. That night, I couldn't shake the unease. Something felt off, like the land itself was holding its breath. I decided to check the old shed 100 yards from the cabin, where Granddad stored his tools. The padlock wasn't Manea shiny, high-end model with PV 418 etched on it replaced the rusted one I'd left in August. My gut twisted. Someone had been here, on my land, without permission. I snapped photos, the scratches on the hasp screaming intrusion. My key didn't fit, confirming what I already knew. This was no mistake. I called Sarah, who agreed to meet me at dawn. When she arrived, her body camera rolling, she hesitated. "You sure you want to open this, James? Once you see what's inside, there's no unseeing it." I nodded, heart pounding. She cut the lock, the snap echoing like a gunshot. The shed door groaned open, revealing a zero-turn mower stenciled with Pine Hollow HOA, traffic cones still in plastic, and a trail camera aimed through a slat at my cabin. Sarah's whistle was low. "This ain't right." She bagged the camera's SD card, sealing it with her signature. "This goes to evidence. I'll file a report on unauthorized use of your property." I didn't sleep. Instead, I called Emily Shaw, a paralegal from Asheville with a knack for digging up property secrets. By noon, she was at my kitchen table, her laptop glowing with GIS maps. "James, this is bigger than your shed," she said, her voice low. She pointed to a 1955 deed clause. My family owned not just the cabin's lot, but a 50-acre square, including the only road into Pine Hollow. The kicker? The road's easement was non-transferable without my consent. For 6 years, the HOA had been trespassing every time a resident drove in or out. "They never asked you or your grandfather for permission," Emily said, her smile sharp. "That's thousands of violations." Neighbor Tom Wheeler, a grizzled local, stopped by with coffee and a story. "Your granddad let everyone use that road for free. Margaret assumed it was hers when the HOA formed. Never checked the deed. He signed an affidavit confirming the HOA's overreach." Then came the bombshell. Neighbor Laura Brooks forwarded an HOA email from Margaret, sent weeks before our confrontation, calling my cabin a visual detriment and threatening $600 daily fines. Buried in the metadata, Laura spotted something. A PDF with altered boundary lines, shifting my property 25 feet to make my cabin illegal. Dated before Margaret's visit, it was signed by 3 HOA board members. Laura's husband, Mike, played an audio from a board meeting. Margaret's voice was cold. "We bury him in legal fees until he sells cheap. I've done it before in Boone. These mountain folks always crack." My coffee mug nearly cracked in my grip. The audio caught another voice, faint, saying, "This feels wrong, Margaret." Cracks in their loyalty. Mike zoomed in on petition signatures against my cabin, some forged, including one from a neighbor in Europe. Fraud, plain and simple. I found another camera, this one aimed at my bedroom window. My skin crawled. This wasn't about aesthetics, it was personal. I backed up everything to encrypted drives, knowing Margaret might try to erase evidence. Driving past my eastern boundary, I spotted orange cones and a notice for road safety widening, set for Monday at 6 a.m. conveniently before anyone could document it. My survey stake sat right in their work zone, poised for accidental removal. I called Rachel Kim, a boundary dispute expert. She arrived with laser tools and GPS units, muttering coordinates like a prayer. Within hours, she showed me a time-lapse of HOA-edited GIS maps, boundaries creeping over 6 weeks, traced to user Margaret_V. "Amateur work," Rachel said. "They didn't expect forensic analysis." Sunday, I hammered in a private road sign, offering 48 hours before access restrictions. I set up a table with temporary passes, explaining to neighbors the HOA's fraud. Most were shocked, signing acknowledgments that the road was mine. "Margaret told us the HOA owned it," said Ellen Harper, reading my documents. "She charged us for maintenance." By noon, I'd issued 15 passes. Margaret's SUV sped by, her eyes blazing in the rearview. Hours later, a fake code enforcement call claimed my sign violated state law. I asked for a badge number. The caller hung up. Tuesday, a county clerk mentioned an HOA request for a restraining order, claiming prescriptive road use. Emily countered with our evidence, killing it. Fire Marshal Dan Torres inspected, warning that without legal access, every home's insurance could be voided, making mortgages callable. "This road's a fire trap without a valid easement," he said, filing a report. Wednesday, Margaret arrived alone, offering $25,000 cash to sign an easement. I dusted the envelope with UV powder, per Sarah's advice. "I'm listening," I said, texting Sarah as I thumbed the bills. She relaxed, thinking she'd won. Sarah arrived, UV light revealing glowing powder on Margaret's hands. "Attempted bribery," Sarah said, bagging the cash. Friday, the DA opened a fraud investigation. A contractor admitted Margaret ordered him to move stakes, showing texts with coordinates. At Saturday's community meeting, the hall overflowed. I presented 3 boards: GIS fraud, insurance risks, evidence logs. When I played Margaret's audio, the room went silent. She screamed, "These are lies to ruin our community," then shoved Mike, knocking over a table. Sarah cuffed her for assault as phones recorded. By Monday, I signed a permanent easement, $35 per month per household, inflation adjusted, with a $150,000 restoration bond. Margaret faced charges: fraud, forgery, assault carrying 14 years. Her assets were frozen, her real estate license suspended. Restoration crews began fixing my land, planting saplings to replace stolen pines. Neighbors apologized, some with pies, others with notes. A girl who'd egged my cabin left a drawing. Sorry, I didn't know. The local news ran a segment on HOA overreach, my porch swing creaking defiantly in the shot. A Carter rule passed, mandating HOA transparency. At a July barbecue, laughter filled my shed, kids playing in the meadow where Margaret once ambushed me. Tom raised his beer. Your granddad would be proud, James. You prove this land takes care of those who fight for it. I raised mine back, feeling the valley breathe again. But what would you do if someone tried to steal your home with lies and forged papers? Would you fight like I did, or take the cash and walk? If an HOA bullied your family's legacy, would you risk everything to expose them, or stay quiet to keep the peace? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more stories where truth wins. Stay sharp, stay grounded.